Hello everyone, this is Brendan, coming back for another episode of my Dark Souls Let's Play. I'm going to try to start making these episodes a little bit longer, because I did the math, and if I put out 15-minute episodes, then I should be finished this game somewhere around episode 30,000 or so. So we'll try and do a little bit more. Anyway, so we rested the first bonfire, and there's this big old door, right? And so that's what we're meant to go to next. I've talked a little bit about things that you can notice just by being a little bit more attentive. So if you ran around this space in the classic sort of RPG style, maybe you're used to, oh, here's where I'm supposed to go, let's go everywhere else. You might notice there's a door here that I can't open from this side, and there's actually nothing else in this courtyard that we can go to. If you look up, you can actually see there's a window in there, and there's something up there moving. It's kind of hard to see. There's definitely something up there moving. So we'll see if that comes into play. I absolutely love the sort of the effort that it takes to open these big doors. Right, it really feels like you're accomplishing something. And once again, there's this big open area. You're not used to sort of what this game might throw at you. I'm just gonna spoil it a little bit. You can kind of see up there. There's something up there. But let's just do what the designers intended us to do, which was go, oh look, a reading thing. I'm gonna go read that. Get away. Oh god. Oh no. And so this is our first Dark Souls boss. The Asylum demon. And it is pretty common for most people to die when they first meet this boss, because you're still getting used to the controls. You might try to hide behind a pillar or something, and that's the first place that you learn that Dark Souls bosses don't care about the controls, or don't care about things blocking the way. And if I try to attack this guy, oh boy. I will admit, this is my first time talking while playing, and it's a little nerve-wracking. So if I just attack him with my sword, you can see I do 2 damage there. It's almost an invisible amount of damage. So a lot of people are probably going to die here, and if I died here, then I'd work back to the bonfire. But you'll notice that the message, it just says get away, and the only other thing in here is this door, which closes behind us. And so that's actually all you have to do in this first fight, is just get away. And, you know, this is funny sort of for a lot of reasons. In Demon Souls, sort of the prequel to this game, I guess this is the spiritual successor to Demon Souls, the first boss, you had to die at the boss to continue the game. It's like you died and then you sort of respawn in the like new hub world. But you could kill it and you get like a little bonus or whatever, and you can actually kill this boss too if you're very persistent. And you have to do it with your broken short sword hilt that does almost no damage, and you can't do any healing, etc., etc. And you get like a small bonus for doing that early. But what I like about this is that while it's the boss in Demon Souls sort of lets you know that bosses are going to deal a ton of, they're going to kill you almost instantly and you're going to die a ton, right? That's a lesson that I think all of these games are going to teach you a lot anyway. And so what I like about this is this tells you, sometimes it is totally okay to run away, right? That if you're flailing against an enemy and it seems like you're doing almost no damage, it might be better to go and try to do something else. And that lesson is sort of very important, and you'll be taught it again when we sort of open up the central part of the game once we get past the Asylum tutorial section. But I like that they first introduced that idea here. Another bonfire. Let's save there. This will be the first place also you notice that your hit points go all the way back up when you rest at the bonfire. We've got another message. Get your shield. So what is this supposed to mean? So I go, okay, I'm going to look out here, and there's what looks like a guy, and I immediately get hit by an arrow, right? And I'm in this water, I try to run away, I'm too slow. And so this is again Dark Souls trying to get you used to its style of hinting things at you, or how to predict what's going to happen next in Dark Souls. You read a message, it's very helpful, and then you run out into something and you get shot, right? So it's trying to tell you not to do that. Something you'll notice about these arrows is that they're super slow, right? Like, I'm getting hit by these arrows, and if I run this way at all, if he's far enough away, I can just dodge these arrows all day. So I might want to go run up to him, but I know that my weapon's not going to do any damage, right? Because it did barely any damage to that boss I tried to fight. And there's a nice little corpse here. Ooh, look, a shield! I'm going to hide in here, and let's see if I can figure out how to put up my shield. Well, there are two messages in here. One tells you how to open the menu, and the other one tells you how to guard with the shield. So let's open the menu up here, go into our equipment, and let's equip this target shield. Let's see if I can toggle the display here. We'll talk a little bit about this sort of in the future, but some of the most important things are the weight in red there. That just means it's heavier than holding nothing. Your weight, your equip load, affects how quickly you move and roll around. And there are sort of hidden thresholds that you can discover on your own. I believe they're at 25% and 50% equip load. It dramatically alters your movement. Durability, or durability, as it were. Every piece of weapon and armor slowly degrades over time, and all that really is in this game is it just means that when we later gain the ability to find someone who can repair that, is that it's like a slow drain on our souls that we have to remember to do. And it's another thing that'll be pulling for us while we're adventuring to sort of run back home because maybe our favorite weapon is about to break. As far as shields go, they wanted to make this menu standardized, so there are all these attack things going on that left column: physical, magic, fire, lightning, critical, and there's like a 56 and 100 and all this stuff. That doesn't matter for a shield. The only thing that matters is over here the damage reduction percentage. And especially this early in the game, the physical damage reduction. So this says a 78% damage reduction physical, which means that if I'm blocking something, I'll only take 22% of the damage. Alright, so I've got my shield. And I just tried to guard with my shield, and it didn't do anything because I still have the menu open. So, good start. So there's my shield. So now we have our shield, and let's try and go after this guy. Haha! You'll notice that that hit took a little bit off my green stamina bar. And once again, you see he's running away, and I'm already starting to be worried about a trap. And I know that these white things have always given me something good. We've only encountered 2 of these so far, and one of them was a shield, which was allegedly part of my starting gear, and the other thing was the key that I required to go on. So I'm going to be trying to get as many of these pillaging corpse things as possible. Oh good, a bandit's knife. So now I can actually equip a real weapon. Oop. You'll notice I didn't... There's another place for a second weapon. The benefit of that is that you can quickly switch between these 2 weapons now, but it counts against your equipment load while you're doing it, so... Let's come back to me. You can see there, even at very close distance, I was able to dodge out of the way. So let me try to get in a backstab here. Getting a backstab, too weak. To get in a backstab, you need to be around behind someone and use light attack. And you also can't be holding up your shield. You'll notice if I hold up my shield here, I can attack just fine. But going right from a shield to a light attack actually precludes you from backstabbing. Okay, so here's the first white light. And at this point I have no idea sort of what traversing a white light means. Those of you who are familiar with how games are made might think that it involves culling, right? Where we're loading this new area and getting rid of the old one. But no, you can go right back into the old area. And even more so, look, here's where we were, right? There's the first bonfire that we sat at. There's the big door that we opened, which is closed now. Right? There's that little window I looked through. There's where that demon was hiding. So it's not a culling thing. It's sort of a flavor thing. And as we'll see later, some of those white lights give you entry to bosses. And so the fact that some of the white lights don't give you entry into bosses means that you have to sort of be on your toes when moving through a white light. Because it could be a new boss, or it just could be, you know, a break into a new area. And a lot of times, because all these areas are connected, right, because this area was already loaded before I activated that white light, a lot of times you can find out if there's a boss by finding some way to get view of where you're about to go. Backstep, alright. It's going to be very important. You might have seen me do the roll when I was trying to talk about the Asylum demon. You'll see the roll also takes stamina. Everything takes stamina. That's what this game's all about. Oh look, there's another thing. I desperately want it, but I can't get up there. I can't roll up there. And so this is another one of those things where you can kind of see what looks like a hallway back there, where the game is showing you other parts of the level that you're not at yet, right? It's giving you a taste of what's to come. It's giving you something sort of small scale to aspire to. If I can only get up there somehow, then I know I can get a treasure. Okay, so we have two ways to go here. We have downstairs and upstairs. And if you had some spatial awareness and you looked around inside this courtyard, you might remember there's the fire. There was that closed door I couldn't open from the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run around to that door, and we'll see if it opens from this side. It does. Awesome. And so now we've opened up a shortcut all the way back to this bonfire. And at least some of the tension in the game, and some of the excitement in the game, some of the reward structure is going, quote-unquote, the wrong way. Right? You have one of those choices. Should I go up? Should I go down? I don't know. And one of those will be advancement further on, and one of those will be something that loops back and unlocks some kind of shortcut. So that as you start to learn your way around the space, now if I wanted to, I wouldn't have to go all the way through this building and all the way down and up and around. I could just spawn from this bonfire and go this way to go back to those stairs. And a lot of the game is sort of building this map in your head, and one of the best things about this game, which I'll talk about after we leave the Asylum, is this idea of eventually getting everywhere you see, right? So the levels are super interconnected, and basically anywhere that you can look at is a place you can go, eventually. Door is locked. I can't go back in and fight that guy now that I have my equipment, so I guess I'm going to go up those stairs. This is another point where, like, if you could notice something, that you could see it coming. So most people, they probably have their camera kind of like this, and they would just start walking up the stairs. If you look up the stairs, you can see there looks like there's something dark at the top there. I don't know if that's like exactly what that is. It turns out that's a boulder, and a hollow up there will push it down on you as you start to walk up the stairs. And so most people, when they're first playing this game, will get hit by this boulder. But again, it doesn't kill you. It hurts a lot. But if you notice, you went down the stairs, and you have easy access to a bonfire to heal yourself. So again, the Asylum has these few areas where you're not being punished very much for being taught, hey, why don't you pay attention to your surroundings? And we'll see if I have the ability to keep talking and avoid this boulder as I go up. You can see it start to move, and you can hear it crash, and it actually busts a hole in this wall, which I think is pretty cool. For now, we're going to go up here, and take care of this guy, this jerk, who pushed the boulder down on us. You can see there, the camera kind of gave us a terrible angle, so we couldn't see that that did a massive amount of damage, which is kind of what daggers are good at. They have extra strong backstab and parry damage, but kind of weak regular damage to balance it out. This door's locked, so we're going to almost certainly have to go through this hole. And I want to try and grab that corpse. So I could talk a little bit about something that some people think is a little goofy about this game, but I like, which is that as soon as bodies die, they lose a lot of their mass, and so they can like get caught up in your legs and sort of goofily flop around, right? It's probably easier to process in some way, but I kind of like it. First of all, because it's fun just pushing dead enemies around, especially enemies that maybe you had trouble with. But also, there are some later sections where even when the enemies are quite large, you can push their corpses around like that in such a way that if you have a whole bunch of enemies you're fighting, it kind of freaks you out because you're not sure if you've killed all the enemies. You can't tell if the enemies are moving, scooting around you in the heat of the combat. If the enemies are scooting around you because you're still in combat with them, or they're all dead, or most of them are dead, and they got hooked up on your player model, and you're moving them around in a goofy way. So let's go through here, and we'll talk to this guy. If you watch the opening cutscene, this was the guy who dropped the corpse with the key on it down into our cell and got us out of here. Since then, he seems to have had a bit of a tumble.
Oh, you. You're no hollow. Thank goodness. I'm done for, I'm afraid. I'll die soon, then lose my sanity. I wish to ask something of you. You and I, we're both undead. Hear me
Sure,
out,
friend.
will you?
What is your decision? There are a whole bunch of decisions in this game. And I'm going to try to pay attention to something that happens, which is the game doesn't always start you on yes, right? It says yes, no, what is your decision? Like, there's at least one decision I know about in the future that starts you here. And maybe once we see a few more of these decisions, we'll talk a little bit about what that might mean. Because you could very easily start everything by default on yes, and so it is a conscious design decision. And even if it weren't a conscious design decision, there's certainly a Barthesian death of the author thing going on, where there's only so much that we can think about as an unconscious design decision for any game, and especially for this game. There are a lot of very small touches that I think are obviously intentional design, and so I'm more willing to think about some of the strange things about this game as intentional design as well. Well, of course we're going to listen to this guy. He helped us out of prison, or out of the asylum.
My mission, but perhaps you can keep the torch lit. There is an old saying in my family: "Thou who art undead art chosen, and thine exodus from the undead asylum maketh pilgrimage to the land of ancient lords. When thou ringeth the bell of awakening, the fate of the undead thou shalt know." Well, now you know. And I can die with hope in my heart. Oh, one more thing.
It's dangerous to go alone.
An Estus flask, an undead favorite.
Okay.
Oh, and this.
Ooh, a key. I knew I needed that.
Now
All
I
right.
must bid farewell.
Thanks, friend.
I would hate to harm you after death. So go now, and thank you.
Okay, so a lot happened there. He gave us some kind of quest, and, we're already... we don't have anything else to do, right? Like, he let us out of the jail cell, so sure, we'll carry on this legacy, we'll ring the spell of awakening, why not? We're a hero. A gross, zombie-looking hero. The Estus flask he gave us is now sort of in the bottom here, right? So that's interesting. And then we have a message to read. Use item. Now, even if you didn't find the shortcut back to the bonfire, right, and you got hit by the boulder, you'd be coming and you'd be talking to him and you'd be hurt. And then you say, use item, and you use an Estus flask, and you'd be back to full health. And so you'd find out that this is a healing item. Speaking of items, if I go into items here, you can toggle this explanation of Estus flasks, and you can do that for any item. They have these item descriptions, right? And item descriptions are supremely important in this game. Item descriptions, you can see he kind of talked about this quest that he wants us to go on because he's hurt and dying and not going to be able to. And sort of those vague references and item descriptions are really the main two ways that you learn anything about this story, right? Other than that, it's just sort of vague environmental storytelling. And once again, so it behooves the player who wants to keep his or her eye out and notice things. If they read all the item descriptions, then they'll have some idea of what's going on in this crazy mixed-up world. They can start to draw their own conclusions beyond the things that characters just tell you. Though to some extent, the first playthrough of this game is really intended to just take everything everyone says at mostly face value. But you can get a lot more out of the game by reading item descriptions and trying to piece this puzzle together. Another thing that I like, which I want to talk about before it happens, so he said he's dying, right? And we know what happens when other things die, is that we take their souls and they go into the bottom here. And so if we leave... Oh, thanks. So if we rest at bonfires, we get all of our Estus flasks back. So if we leave here and we go rest at the bonfire, you'll notice that at some point, we'll get a nice sound. And then we get 100 souls, right? And we get that nice sound, and if we were a little closer, we'd also get the sort of ghostly wisp thing attracting to our body that shows that we're picking up souls. And so that's the souls of him, so he's dead. Our Estus flask just tick back up to 5. And now let's run back there, and we'll just verify that he's well and truly gone. Sorry, guy. We'll find that Bell of Awakening, friend, and we'll ring it for you. Alright, we have a key, so we know what we have to do. And wait a second. I killed this guy. What's going on here? This is another piece of Dark Souls humor, right? You use an Estus flask, and it does what it does, and maybe you already healed yourself at the bonfire, and so the Estus flask did nothing. And now, like, you used up this item that you had 5 of, and now you only have 4. And you learn, oh, I can rest at the bonfire to get my Estus flask back. And if you do that, then you come up here, and this guy's here, and you have to kill him again. And you're thinking, what the heck happened here? Okay, I learned how to wield this weapon two-handed. And I believe it's not this message, it's the next message. This message just tells you how to kick and jump attack. Let's see if I can do that. Kick, jump attack. Okay. This message is where you first learn resting at bonfires revive enemies. So when you rest at a bonfire, you go back to full health. You get all your Estus flasks back, but all the enemies come back. Except for sort of special enemies like bosses. And you'll notice that was one of the reasons why I walked back to that NPC who died. He didn't come back just because I rested at the bonfire. And so I like to think of this as like a useful piece of information, but it's also kind of funny, right? Like, it's possible that we're going to die later here. It's possible that the player dies fighting through the next area, and that's how they learn that enemies come back. But they might just think, oh, enemies come back when you die. But sort of following the prompts and in order and doing what they say leads you to fight this guy again for no known reason. And then you come here and you learn what happened. And I just find that funny. All right, so we've got a few guys around this corner. This is, again, it's slowly teaching you the lesson of, you know, running out nowhere will get you killed. Running out in the middle of somewhere. So there's two guys there. So you're fighting 2-on-1, and there's a third guy shooting arrows. So it can be good to just back up, assess the situation. You know, it's another lesson. In Dark Souls, even basic enemies, I mean, and these are the only enemies that you've met so far, but even later in the game, when you meet these enemies again, any enemy can kill you if there's a whole bunch of them sort of fighting you at once. Let's try kicking this guy. Kick. So the kicking does no damage, but it kind of knocks them back, stuns them for a little bit. If they have a shield up, it usually knocks them out of a shield. Jumping attack is not a great point-blank attack. Okay, what's this message? While following, right bumper to do a plunging attack. Okay, we'll learn about that in a little bit. From behind an enemy, critical hit. You know, I showed you the backstab earlier. We'll see if I can do that here. And then this message is you can parry to repel an enemy attack, and then after parrying, you can right bumper to riposte. There's a lovely little piece of like design here that I want to try and show, if it'll let me, which I would not have seen without watching Kay's Let's Play of this, which is, conceivably, you could go through this whole thing and you could miss what an Estus Flask does, right? Like, oh, well, we died. Look, talking and fighting is tough, you guys. You know, conceivably, all of your health could be there when you use the Estus Flask, so you don't really know what it does. You can now read the item descriptions. You can even miss what it does. Sorry about that. That was my phone. I apologize if there's like some small syncing issue. I stopped half the recording, but I didn't stop the video, so I'm gonna have to go back and cut that later. I know you're probably not super interested in the details of my video editing. There we go. Look at that. 173, and I'm normally dealing 18, so it's almost 10 times the damage. The downside being that if I had a real person's sword instead of this baby knife, then I would probably be dealing, I think, in like the 30s or 40s. Come on. Okay, so the thing I was talking about with that next enemy is that you could have totally missed what Estus Flasks do. Right? You could have missed that message, but you could possibly read the message that teaches you how to parry. Or you could just be a little bit more... Aha, recover lost power. That's how I got all my souls back. Let's talk about that after I finish this discussion. So, this enemy looks way more imposing than those guys. You know, those guys are in rags, they're basically naked, with like some kind of weapon. This guy has a sword, he has a shield, he has armor. You know, he looks better armored than me, honestly. And if you played as sort of the default warrior class, he looks about as well as armored as you are. And so he's going to take a little bit to take down, and especially if you read this message, then you might even be trying to parry him, which we'll see if we can do. But first what I want to do is just attack him and just start this sort of long, protracted fight with this default enemy. You'll notice he doesn't just unilaterally attack me here, he backs up. And then he has an Estus Flask too, right? And so, if you totally missed what this new item in your inventory does, or you just didn't notice how the inventory works, right? You missed that whole thing. If this fight goes on long enough, then this guy will show you what Estus Flasks do, because he'll use something that looks exactly like what you have in your inventory. Sadly, he could not defeat my critical hit, so I'm gonna push him over here with a friend. Okay. So, plunging attack. So this is another white light, and this is the first time, as soon as you go through here, you'll notice that you're above the area where you ran away from the Asylum demon. And there will be the health bar, the boss health bar will be back, and the sweet battle music will start again. Which I have to say, I do love that the only sort of intense choral music shows up for bosses. And a lot of the music is sort of unique to individual bosses. I think that really, it's just good sound design, man. Good music. And this is another opportunity to learn something, which what that mostly means is an opportunity to die, which is you enter here and you're on this ledge, and the music starts and there's the boss thing, and you're just looking out sort of into space, and so you might take some time to look down and adjust, and then there's the boss down there, and you're thinking, oh right, I learned how to do this plunging attack. What was that again? It was right bumper while falling, right? And if you take too much time to think about it, then the boss actually sort of leaps up with his little stubby wings and destroys the platform you're on and kind of does his own plunging attack on you, right? And so that in itself is a lesson in the style that Dark Souls likes to give, which is, you know, you're in this high pressure situation and you have to make a decision. And if you don't make a decision, unless you engineer a situation where you are safe, you are not safe. You know, if there's some way to cheese the boss, right, find some safe place to scope out what the boss does, then you're fine, but sort of by default, any place that the game will put you is not a safe place at the beginning of a boss fight. And that is a lesson that we will see a lot more, especially when we come to, for example, the Capra Demon. But if you can think quickly enough, or maybe the second time you go through this, then you can actually try to do a plunging attack, and it does a huge amount of damage, right? Especially in comparison to the amount of damage we did before. Plunging attack! You can see here that it deals almost half his life in damage. Alright, let's just back up a bit. One thing that's interesting about Dark Souls bosses that takes some getting used to is a lot of them are way bigger than you are, right? And I'm going to try and block one of his attacks to show you that, look how big this thing is. Let me block it. It did some damage, and it staggered me for a while, right? And so, a lot of boss fighting in Dark Souls is understanding how bosses move and trying to stay out of the way, because it's too dangerous to just try and block everything, try and tank that damage. You are a puny undead in comparison to things like this Asylum demon. And what that means is that it can be kind of counterintuitive until you think about it, that one of the safest places to be against something like this Asylum demon is right next to him, because he has this huge reach. He's gigantic, he has this giant hammer, and so you want to sort of get inside that threat range, and he is obliterating me. See if I can drink in safety. No, can't do that. And so there are a decent number of bipedal bosses in this game that you can do really good damage to by kind of just getting close to them and getting swept sideways. So that's not how that happens. There are some invincibility frames on that dodge, which is why I'm trying to time it more precisely. Anyway, so some of the safest places you can be, man, it is very difficult to talk and fight. Some of the safest places, you can see there, those 100% invincibility frames. Drink, 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 drink. Some of the safest place are their invincibility frames. Whoop! So you can start to see, you can start to get an idea for their animations and know when you need to, when their animations are going to continue into another one. Let me drink here, and now I'm just going to try and kill this guy with no Estus flasks. Nice dodge by me. let's get to the safest place possible, which is right up in this guy's butt. Right? We're close, and we're out of the way of that large flail. That large mace. And just start poking that butt. And what I'm actually going to do... Come on, camera, don't... Sometimes the camera can be your greatest foe, because I'm going to two-hand this because I'm not blocking. And two-handing the weapon does a little bit more damage. Whew. Got him. Alright. Kill him on the first try. You defeated. And then we pick up the big pilgrim's key. Where could this go? The only other door in here, right? But if we want, you'll notice this door that was locked by a contraption is now open. And so if I'm terrified, 1,000 souls, jeez. I can come back here and I can rest this nice open door. And it's possible, if I sort of got myself turned around during that intense fight, that I just walk through the open door because I think that's the way out, and I see a bonfire, and then eventually I realize I'm back in the courtyard. So let me use this key. I could go back in there if I want, and the door will not shut behind me anymore. Let's open this door and progress on to the actual game. I like this last little developer message here. Good job, go straight ahead. Like, you know what I like about this is that the game is terrifying, right? Like, who knows what's going to happen yet. At this point, if you just playing the game, you don't know that this is the end of the tutorial section and you're actually pretty safe here. But these messages have yet to lie to you, right? These messages from the developer have yet to lie to you. So you have some idea of your safety from that, if you haven't let the sort of panic and paranoia of the game's difficulty in general make you stop trusting them. Also, there's a corpse hidden back here for those that are searching. Things that I will have to spend a little bit of time talking about is non-developer messages. So I'm playing this in offline mode. But Dark Souls has this sort of single-player, multiplayer thing where later we'll get an item that lets us leave messages for people. Actually, I think we start with that item. Nope, never mind. Where we can leave messages for people, and those messages can be very helpful, and there are some things that you might not find in this game without random messages from other players, like hinting you at them. But also, non-developer messages are not necessarily truthful. And I like what they did where there's sort of a large menu tree for the messages that you can leave. So that you can leave a lot of different messages, but you can't just write, dicks, 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 or something.
You, give me warm, give me soft.
This bird, maybe we'll come back to it later in the game, and yeah, we'll come back and talk about it a little bit more. It's this sort of tricky item trading system where you can trade at things the bird wants, and then if you sort of reload the area, then those items will be traded into sort of rarer, more powerful items. But I think for now, I'm just going to cut the video here with this bird, and I'll see you once we reach the land of ancient lords, Lordran.
Only in the ancient legends it is stated that one day an undead shall be chosen. To leave the undead asylum in pilgrimage to the land of the ancient lords. Lordran.